Hey guys, today we're gonna do the first episode of Nalu reacts to League of Legends educational or coaching content on YouTube. The first person we're gonna look at today is gonna be a professional player called Lohpally. He's been playing in the NA scene, so in the American scene, for since 2013. So he played in teams like Complexity Academy. Uh, I don't really know other teams outside of Complexity. So I would assume basically what they say is that it was it was a professional scene in terms of like Challenger series. He played a long time in the Challenger series, and now he decided to make educational content on the video. The video we're gonna look at today, which you can find in the description down below, is gonna be titled "This is the only Nami guide you'll ever need." Okay, so basically what he's doing is he's teaching a Nami player, right, how to play Nami. And what we're gonna do today, like how we're gonna start the series, is we're gonna react to it and see what we're gonna learn today about Nami. So, because Lohpally is not a professional coach, we're gonna a little bit be more conservative in terms of the coaching part. But even though, let's see what he has to say to play Nami and probably support better. So, let's dive into it.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we'll just jump right into it then. Immediately, thing that I always want to talk about, just like before we jump too much into it, is just like rune setups, purpose behind like the runes in general, and like summoner decision making, all of that jazz. So first,
Okay, so basically I get that he's doing this probably on stream, or he's filming it somewhere else. I think it's probably on stream, and probably a viewer came in, to get his advice. When someone, I don't know if this was paid or not, but if this wasn't paid, then his attitude is can be completely acceptable, right? If this is paid, if that person paid for his coaching, then the attitude is not professional at all. So like when you say like all that jazz and stuff like that, usually we use that tone when we want to describe something to someone you already know. But I'm assuming, again, we will see through the video, if that he doesn't know the person. So basically when you want to coach, you want to sound very professional what you're talking about, and basically using words that are very um you know sound very unprofessional makes your credibility lower.
stuff we'll talk about is rune setups, which you can still see this, right? It's showing the entire screen.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Okay, so it's a girl.
whenever you're
Okay.
playing matchups like this, there's a couple of options that you can do for rune setups.
Okay, we don't know what matchup it is yet, so
One is just like a really good defensive setup, which is gonna look a lot like this. So for like whenever you're playing against matchups that have like really strong all in, so I think you're playing against Nautilus in this game. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Okay, so against Nautilus, right? I mean, let's see, but this page that he has right now is actually not the best a defensive setup against, someone like Nautilus. But let's see
Like
what.
this. So for like whenever you're playing against matchups that have like really strong all in, so
Let's
I
see if
think
he
you're playing
explains it.
against
If he
Nautilus in this
explains it,
game.
else
I
I'm gonna
wasn't-
take
Yeah.
that.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Let's
So
see.
like this is probably a common rune that if I'm worried about being all in, this is usually what I'm gonna be running for my.
Okay, so basically, he's talking about taking Guardian, Font of Life, Conditioning, Revitalize. Okay, so I'm gonna say this is good. This is good. Like, Font of Life is a very underestimated rune that can come really in handy. Revitalize really good for healing, shielding, and Nami has a lot of that. Now conditioning, I prefer bone plating a lot more than conditioning, and the reason for it is because when it comes into mid and late game, usually with proper positioning at this level that she's playing at master, you will not get really caught out, if you properly play it out. So conditioning doesn't really help you out a ton, because after about 8 minutes, 10 minutes, the laning phase usually is over. Usually the laning phase doesn't go to like 12 minutes. And basically, Nautilus is the biggest threat to you in laning phase. Outside of laning phase, you know, yes, armor and magic resist is gonna be super helpful, but bone plating will give you that more protection for the lane itself. And if you come out of laning phase against Nautilus even and you don't die, you already did 90% of your job. You know, it's we are not scared Nami against Nautilus because of mid and late game. We're scared because of early game
setup.
Mhm.
Bone plating is an acceptable secondary for some cases, but this loses a lot of power as you go through the mid to late game. So if you're gonna take bone plating, just know that you're gonna be a lot squishier later in the game, but this will help you get through laning phase. So it depends on like whether you struggle with dying in the early laning phases or you want to scale like better to team fights. So for me,
for a lower level, you would go probably conditioning, if you are. Because the game is gonna get longer, right? But for like higher level, it's basically the best players are gonna attack you in the lane
personally,
phase.
like I don't find that I get caught too frequently in lane, so I tend to take conditioning way more frequently. Just because when this comes online, it makes you way more durable in the mid game.
So would I take bone plating if I was like going against like a brand or something? That's just like annoying.
Okay, so the way bone plating works is it procs after you've taken damage. So usually you only want this against melee champions because if you play it against like Brand, just like a random spell hitting you at any point in time can put this on cooldown.
Completely correct.
And then you get no value out of bone plating. So it's
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's relatively useless in that sense. So conditioning is usually what I tend to go pretty much all the time. You can go revitalize, like let's say I'm laning against Nautilus and maybe there's like a Zed or a Kha'Zix, etc. and I'm worried about potentially myself dying, then this is also an option as Overgrowth over Revitalize.
That is true.
Sometimes Revitalize actually doesn't give you as many numbers as you'd think.
Revitalize actually gives you a lot of numbers, especially when you combine it then with taking like Ardent and stuff like that. When you increase your healing power, this stacks up and it's really, really, really good. But yes, I agree with him that when there's a lot of threat to you, right, then Overgrowth could be an option, but the problem with Overgrowth is that the later the game goes, the more you want to avoid the lanes themselves, okay, to give as much experience and experience as possible to your AD carry or carry, which means you want to avoid as much as possible taking that experience, which means you're not going to be near minions and the rune is basically not going to proc after laning phase. At the highest level.
And Overgrowth on average.
Again, we are taking as the fact that Nami is master. I would explain things a little bit different to someone that would be lower AO, but this is a master game, right? So this is higher.
Average gives you about 400 gold worth of HP, which is about 150 HP, which is the Ruby Crystal. Usually when you get to about 15 to 20-ish minutes. So I really like this personally, but Revitalize is also fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, we want Spell Haste, and Mana Flow just covers a lot of our mana problems in general.
Okay, in general, with how the current mana items are, right? And how the fact when you take Guardian, you actually don't want to trade, you know? What we can go Inspiration, okay? And Inspiration, we can take Cosmic Insight, which is an awesome rune, because you puts your flash, you put your heal. Usually we take summoner spell heal, you know, with someone like Nami. Off cooldown way often. Like the difference really, really matters, and it lowers the potential of you getting all in or ganked. And with that, we can either take boots, okay? And a lot of people are gonna say for this level, well, boots is not that good because, you know, we want to go Moby boots early on, and we want to, you know, roam around, or, you know, we want to have the mobility to dodge. And because a lot of aggressive supports, what they go is they go, you know, boots early on. And when they go boots, you know, you have to kind of have boots as well to kind of measure movement speed, else they're going to close the gap and hook you way, way more often, you know? But if you're, like, determined to play in a way where you're going to just, you know, let the enemy push and give up pressure, so then you would prefer the Cosmic Insight and the boots. And if you don't want to take the boots, then you can also go Zonias. Zonias is also pretty valuable rune. So basically, Mana Flow and Transcendence, if I'm planning to just, you know, be AFK, so it's like there's 3 steps. 1 is you trade. 2 is like, this one is more like I can, be aggressive or not, and then with Cosmic Insight Boots, you say, I concede the lane, and I'm gonna outscale you. But in higher levels, that can be punished easily.
So that is like the main. Have like you're healing a lot. Mana flow doesn't actually cut it. You don't really get a lot of mana from other items unless you buy a tier. These lines too for defense, but you're gonna have less mana. On
Yeah,
champions,
usually
like,
don't.
kind of the trade-offs.
Okay, so now he's explaining the Eri pages, and the Eri pages are pretty okay, So either, a very defensive trade oriented. I like Resolve way better than Tenacity and Presence of Mind, because I found that with Mana Flow Bind I never really go with proper mana management based on the base timings we do in the laning phase. So I like this to trade with stuff like Lulu and Soraka and all of that jazz, way better. So I love this page. Now, if I want to really the additional trading power, I go Scorch, but Gathering Storm is fine. Now, in terms of haste, magic resist, armor, I tend to like AP more. I like the ability haste. So ability haste early on is really good, but here I tend to prefer taking raw power because I kind of want to all in and I know I'm gonna win trades over the defensive part, especially if I take bone plating and revitalize.
Trade-offs for all your rune setups when it comes to this.
I just like follow like the copy and paste thing.
Okay, so Gathering Storm is usually what we want in most cases, and the reason for that is just because Scorch's numbers are just so pitiful on champions like Nami that don't poke very frequently that there's just no point in getting it. If you're playing a different champion that pokes with it, or maybe you're laning with someone else that pokes with you, then it's fine. So
yes, exactly.
Examples of this are like when I play like Ashe and MF support, things that poke really hard and are poking frequently, then I like that. Another thing to note too is in a lot of cases, I think Exhaust is just substantially better than Ignite in almost all ways, shape.
Yeah, let's see if he explains the heal.
Oh, really? That is when you play Nami, your skill shots are slow. They come out very slow, and a lot of times you need like an instant way to stop damage incoming. Exhaust covers that window really well on champions like Nami. You can't.
It doesn't cover that well. Like, it's way better to have it on the AD carry, because what happens is Nami is usually a target that gets all-in way better. So how you need to think about it is when you play against an all-in lane, right? So if you have Exhaust and Tristana has heal, right? What happens is that if Nautilus hooks you during the time you CC, like a lot of times mechanically, you're not going to be able to exhaust the AD carry in time, or the AD carry is not just, in a lot of AD carries are not even going to a range for you to exhaust them, like Misfortune ulting you or something like that. While if the exhaust is on the AD carry, then what the AD carry can do, he can actually exhaust the AD carry that would do follow-up damage to you, right? And aggressively fight him, so he can be used aggressively as well. So that's why I actually personally really hate, and later on I found way better cases using an extra heal than exhaust. So I hate to have exhaust or ignite.
And take ignite if you feel like you're gonna score kills in lanes, but if you basically don't get kills in lanes, ignite has no value. So if you don't get a kill, don't at least get 1 to 2 kills in lane with the ignite, then the ignite basically proceeds to have no value, whereas exhaust is useful on all
stages. Except versus healing reduction.
That makes so much sense. I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've not been a big fan of ignite on champions like.
Okay, but he doesn't explain that she should actually take heal and Tristana should take exhaust. So they should switch summoner spells, because AD carries can also use exhaust way better aggressively and defensively at the same time. It's like, and Nami, like, usually AD carries tend to mess up heals a lot, and they tend to hesitate in terms of healing other people, while supports will use that heal as an extra ability to heal someone, and because you can take Cosmic Insight, you see now how it all ties together, with the inspiration tree, right? You can heal way more often, and you can use it almost as an ability for movement speed and stuff like that. And like I said, usually supports have a better overview of the fight itself. So I like to have exhaust on Tristana, so on the AD carry, and heal on Nami.
Lulu, Nami, etc. These champions that are trying to get to the team fight stage, protect their backline carry. I prefer the exhaust in most cases, and it usually gives you kind of like an oopsie button. You know, your AD carry gets hooked, okay, you can walk him an exhaust and at least bail him out of that death. Whereas Ignite really only comes on in terms of value if you're the aggressor all the time. Which sometimes for a lot of people is kind of like a lot of extra pressure that they're dealing with.
Yeah, I thought I used to take it, but I don't know. People were saying it wasn't good anymore.
Yeah,
Ignite
exhaust
can
on
be good if you
supports
just like
is-
score kills, but it's really inconsistent for the most part. Has been the problem that I've always ran into. So that's like kind of the tackling point for all the runes and setups for the future.
No, it's not.
Also,
Yeah.
You missed
another thing to
the
note
heal
too.
exhaust
Sorry.
variant. Way better.
For
Okay, let's go into the game itself now.
Okay. So primary things when you're playing a matchup like this is obviously minion wave and brush control. So the main things
Yes.
that I want you to focus on is where you're standing and how you're standing. So when we enter in lane, what you want to be doing is, if you're not auto-attacking a player, we want to be auto-attacking a minion. But we also want to make sure that we're not hitting minions that make our AD carry miss last hits and lose his mind. Okay? So,
let me
in
finish.
scenarios like this, so we've come to lane, right? And these are all, like, pretty dang low. I wouldn't hit any of these. So what I would do is I'd be chilling in these range minions and then hitting this minion right here. Now, what happens when this guy takes the brush is what you want to do is just sit in the minion wave and hit the minions the entire time. Because what'll happen is you hit the minions and he's not hitting it, right? Because he's standing in the brush. That means your wave pushes up, which then means that you can now contest this brush because you have a minion wave that will turn and hit him at the same time.
I would really suggest he starts using things to draw, you know? So, Epic Pen, right? It makes things a lot more clear, especially when people, you know, don't follow him. And, you know, it's way easier to picture what he's talking about. So what he's talking about, Nautilus goes here. Nami, right, cannot take bush control against Nautilus because level 1 they can, you know, fight. Even though, like, properly, Tristana's level 1 is really, really strong. Level 2 even better, you know. So with Guardian, you can actually, you know, based on the full defensive setup he went for, you can actually absorb a Q pretty okay and then, you know, land a trait to... Basically, the reason why it's okay is if they take it like here, you know, and then the minions are going to do pretty much good damage. But yes, pushing the wave is okay. The thing is that I don't like is that he didn't talk about the matchup itself. So he's talking about as generally you just want to always push, which is not true. You kind of want at master level, you want to take matchup into account.
Okay.
Plus, this will also be your ability to read where someone stands. So, like, if let's say you see my cursor, right? So let's say if you push the minions and there's 3 range minions here, he's sitting in this brush and the AD carry steps back, perfect. That means that if this guy anchors you or roots you or whatever, there's no follow-up from him. And then you know you can step forward and approach and control the brush. Because a champion like Nami against Nautilus, we don't want to be fighting for the brush, right? Like, his anchor at level 1 is really, really problematic.
Yeah.
So rather than walking back and forth, we want to just make sure that we're auto-attacking the minions as much as possible. You are doing a good job of auto-attacking the enemy players, which is already, like, a pretty good positive.
Yeah, usually I just try to be really annoying in lane.
Perfect. So then we've W'd the wave, right? So we want to be auto-attacking the minions. Perfect. A lot of times you'll just be kind of just even.
Actually, like he says, like auto-attacking the wave, right? He didn't take into account the lane state because the lane state is so that they are 100% winning the push right now after the trade, right? Based on how Nautilus and Mira walked up, she should actually not be auto-attacking the wave because she wants to slow it down. Because the slower it is after you win it completely, because in this
Usually I
case,
just try to be really.
right? In this case, we know we're gonna push. The reason why is that it's 9 minions, so you guys see there's 9 minions against 6 minions. So what happens is that you're 100% guaranteed the push because Nautilus doesn't have any stacks anymore, which means that you can actually just let Tristana push and, you know, slow it down so that it doesn't hit the tower too fast, you know? So the more you stacked up wave you have, the more you can punish them
Annoying
early on,
in lane.
you know, and your level 2 is
Perfect.
better. So
and we've W'd the wave,
she
right?
should
So we
actually
wanna
not be
auto-attacking
attacking the
minions.
wave.
Perfect.
She shouldn't be.
A lot of times you'll just be kind of just even in lane for the most part, and that's fine on a champion like Nami. Another thing I do recommend, though, that you learn is learning how to scale up your abilities without clicking on them. Because
Oh my god,
times-
yes.
Yeah,
I
so
can't.
Yeah, because whenever we hit level 2, you want to be able to force immediately, and although it sounds kind of like nitpicky, it really does make a huge difference on whether or not your trades go well. So we could
Yeah, I
definitely put
know.
that.
Yeah, so it's very interesting how he talked about very detailed in terms of bush control, but like a certain basic, like about, we teach this to silver people. When the
We've
wave is
W'd the
like
wave, right? So
this,
we want to be auto-attacking the minions. Perfect.
right? When the wave is like this and you know you're gonna get level 2, like she should be full on going forward, ping Tristana, assist. She does an auto attack on the way, Tristana's auto jumps in, and it's immediately, a flash from the enemies, So, like, Nautilus will have to flash away, because it's level 2 against level 1. And because you skill bubble, you can, like, very simply just Q on the slow from the Tristana. So, like, this is a very, very important thing, and he should have definitely talked about this,
A lot of times you'll just because
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah,
I
so
can't. Don't.
yeah, because whenever we hit level 2, you want to be able to force
Leveling up
immediately,
abilities
and
with
although it sounds
keyboard
kind of
is
like
important.
nitpicky, it really does make.
Like, I would learn. I just can't. I don't know. Like, when I'm playing the game, I just literally do it without even thinking.
Okay. So these are all positive things that you're doing, though. You're sitting in the minion wave. You're making sure that you're not getting hit by any anchors.
Well, in this affair, right? Actually, Samira and Nautilus cannot 100% all in her. Now, it is true that she has Mana Full Band. If she had the Guardian, she would be able to play more aggressive, right? But on paper, what you would like to do is actually position-wise, she's actually not doing good. She should be more here. And the reason why she should be more away from Tristana is because what she's doing walking with her up and down is something called body blocking, So even though, yes, she cannot contest for bush control, if Nautilus is like walking up, right, they don't win level 2 if she gets grabbed and Samira's ready to follow up the damage because she has Eri, right? But it's still very, very important, right, that she doesn't body block Tristana. So you can stand here and you can basically walk like up and down here to use this minions, and you can still hold the distance against Nautilus. But he doesn't want to be that nitpicky.
And we're just looking for pressure whenever your opponent steps up for minions. So
the reason why I'm a little bit nitpicky is because this is Master. This is not, some gold, some silver and stuff like that. In those elos, I would definitely, not talk about these things. But this
really
is Master.
Easy examples of this is just
but
pay
it
attention to
is
your
true
own
that
minions
NA
and shooting
solo queue
bubbles
is a little
when,
bit lower
your
level
opponent
than you.
is like when your HP is low. So for example, like when this cannon is low and he's walking forward, this is good by you that you walk over and zone him. So we want to make sure that we're just constantly looking at our own minions and trying to zone as much as possible.
Yeah, you see this body block that Nami's doing? That's
possible.
Not too good.
Another thing to note, though, is anytime that this person is approaching like this, you should be sitting in the melees and looking for bubbles whenever he comes up. So, like, when this minion goes low, then we want to shoot a bubble at them. That way, we're either, A, he's walking in and getting hit by the bubble, or B, he steps away and he doesn't get the minion and your bubble gets value. Because it's okay to shoot skill shots if we're zoning people away from it. So next talking point is skilling up abilities. So unless you're playing with someone that procs E really, really well, so Lucian's a really great example of this, where like, you use all 3 spells. In fact, actually, like each of these are about 55 to 60 mana at level 1, which is, if you used all 3 of them, almost 200 mana. So you deplete literally half of your mana pool about. Just casting all 3 of them, and the E doesn't really give you that much extra damage in a trade comparatively to putting a point in W. I think on average it gives you, like, if you autoed all 3 times, like 50 to 65 extra damage. So in general, I tend to put a second point in W because I want to have more efficiency on it, because it'll heal a lot more comparatively to the mana cost it costs. And right now, Nami, like in the early stages, runs into a lot of mana problems.
Okay, this is a nuance I didn't know about. I am just assuming, like, if I would be this Nami, I would probably not skill W second, because based on the wave state, I see that Tristana is going to use an E on the tower, right? Which I would really like the E to proc. But I think, like, he's true. Like, this is a nuance about Nami that I didn't know about in terms of value E level 3 versus value W level 3. So I understand his reasoning, and I think he's right. I would have to do the math, but I think he's completely correct here that W, putting a second point in W, in terms of value, can't be more than, but Tristana procs you really easily. So, but you can't poke, right? But you can poke. But you're gonna get pushed in afterwards, and you're gonna wait. Because you're not gonna. You're gonna do like 1W under tower. Okay, it's
okay,
very close.
I thought it would be
it's
worth
very
to take
close.
it just because like you can slow them and then Q them.
Yeah, for the most part, especially in a scenario like this, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities like that because they're sitting under the turret. So next is looking for bubbles, right? So in scenarios like this, what I want you to pay attention to is where people are standing. So you see where the AD carry is and where the Nautilus is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't need to shoot a bubble.
Went in on him.
Yeah, we don't need to shoot a bubble. You can just sit here, and since we have E, you can slow him. But I would just auto-attack him the entire time, and then if he keeps walking forward, then you can bubble. And then if he walks back, then he walks into the explosion, and you can look for a bubble then. But you don't need to force yourself to shoot it right now, just because...
Delay your ability usage. It is true. Like, you want to auto-attack him so much till he decides, oh, I want to run away, and then you have a 100% guarantee battle. That's kind of like a mind thing,
there's no pressure on you to immediately CC him. Because if he actually goes in and, like, slows your AD carry, anchors him, etc., look how far this guy is, right?
Like, we wanna use against Aftershock people, like Nautilus. We actually want to bubble them after the Aftershock is gone. So if we like auto-attacking and Nautilus does the damage, right, and procs Aftershock, then we're like, awesome, we wait, and then we bubble after the Aftershock is over, to really maximize the damage.
Yeah.
Follow up on any of the damage.
So delaying your spells.
Yeah, I was like so scared there. I was like, oh my god, he's going in.
Yeah.
But so this is a psychological thing where she just got scared, even though Samira was 10 years away.
A lot of like, but yeah, we want to make sure that we're getting our mana flow ASAP because that's going to give you max mana and then eventually your mana regen. And Nami is a champion that actually struggles a lot in terms of mana.
Usually not in a matchup like this, but yes, in a hard poke trade matchup till first base, when you're stacking a mana flow ban, it is true.
So let's talk about pressuring under the turret real quick because this is something I just want to tackle. If there's only 3 range minions, these range minions tend to die pretty much instantly. You shouldn't follow this wave. You didn't get punished for it, but it's not a good habit to build. So like right here, you don't want to walk up at all because it's very easy for him to follow up. And look at how close you are to the turret.
So this is a very basic thing, when there's usually when the melees die, or when there's one melee just dying, there's like only range. We usually don't pressure anymore.
In fact, actually, if he pulls you and you hit him, you'll actually pull turret aggro and get hit, and you will probably die right here. So let's make sure that whenever you're following, like minions hit the turret, there's at least some melee minions in front because those are really durable. And like another thing to note too is when people go for back, he's more tucked under the turret. That's also why, in general, whenever you're pressuring under the turret, you usually shoot your bubbles and try to harass when the enemy AD carry goes for range minions. Not
okay. Now the thing is, versus someone like a Samira, you wouldn't actually shoot bubbles because Samira can just cut it, like she can cut the projectile, which then leaves a very, like, when Nami doesn't have bubble in this matchup, like Nautilus can do whatever he wants, So if Samira properly cuts bubble, that's why this matchup is even worse for Nami. It's super difficult for Nami to be useful and disengage.
I never noticed that, but that's like a good thing to know.
Yeah. So now that the wave is kind of reset again, same thing. We want to make sure that we're proccing our mana flow as much as possible, and then if you're not auto-attacking a player, we just want to be auto-attacking these range minions.
Yeah, you see how she's like always body blocking the Tristana? Like this is way more important than, like, her movement is at this level is
that
really
way you
messing
can wrestle back the push, get it
Tristana.
To the turret, and then
Nautilus could have abused that with proper positioning, going into bush and pressure.
Control what the lane is happening. So it's a lot harder for this Nautilus to go in on you, right? When, see? There you go. There's the mana flow. When you have a minion wave in front of you that you can stand under.
Oh my god, Samira doesn't know how to. Yeah, they still lose. Okay, she should die. Ah, okay. So, basically, this is the thing, right? So we can see
there you go.
We can see here again.
That way you can wrestle back the push,
she goes
get it to the turret, and then you can control what
Nautilus steps
lane
back.
is happening. So it's a lot harder for
right?
this Nautilus to go in on you, right? When
Boom,
see?
trade. You know, we can
There
see
you go.
that
There's the
Tristana botches up,
flow.
and Samira
When you
even
have a minion wave in front of you that
messes
you
up
can
and doesn't
stand
block
under.
the bubble. You see, if Samira blocks the bubble, like they completely destroy. And this is kind of like the issue with, you know, the ignite thing, not having exhaust, especially in this matchup, you know, and not having guardian. You know, yeah, your AD carry can get one shot. You can get one shot. That's why this is a very terrible matchup.
Okay, so main things to tackle, and we'll come back to this in a second, is number one, use your health potions. It's very, very important when you get into a skirmish like this to just use your health potions as soon as possible. They make the difference almost always. Bubble, and we've used
I don't think like the health potion like usage here would change anything.
all these are really good things, and it's really good that you're auto attacking them the entire time. Main thing to note is just using your health potion, because that's actually it could have been very close to the difference, and it's just a good habit to build in general. So like, instead of being 38 right now, you're probably at about 80 to 90. In fact, actually, if you had popped a potion when you took damage here and you were at this stage right now, there's a very good chance you didn't even have to flash.
She would have 100% have to flash.
There's a good flash and correct flash with your HP, but there's a very good chance, right? See, there's your HP when you've used your potion, that you wouldn't even have to flash in that sense. Also, you can play a lot more aggressive because he doesn't have any mana anymore.
I actually like how this girl
back to try to get an
plays.
assist.
Like she does play aggressive.
Then I almost like died.
That's good.
Kind of...
Really like it.
Alright, that was my bad from it.
Okay, cool. We take our reset. So let's talk about buy paths. So you basically build your build path is basically the same whether you go Moonstone or Mandate, no matter what. So whenever you back with about this amount of gold, what are you thinking when you're buying?
Usually, I actually don't know if I should go for the boots or the Bandle glass.
Okay, so the answer is neither of those. So you're playing against a Nautilus, right? So Nautilus has a lot of all in, right? So we want health in this scenario. So you should actually buy the Kindle Gem here and get your normal boots and a refillable potion.
Exactly.
That's how your buy should look right here.
He's right.
So let's figure out how we build good building blocks for itemization. So first off is looking at your lane matchup. Is there a lot
building blocks for itemization? I think you can very, very simplify this. You know, like you need health versus all in, and you need, you know, like, even though she's master, like very nuances in terms of itemization, even though this can be considered for a master level, pretty big mistake.
A lot of all in, or is there a lot of poke? So that's the primary thing that I want you to think about more consciously. In general, tier 2 boots versus tier 1 boots doesn't matter unless you're dodging a ton of skill shots. So example of matchups where tier 2 boots would be good. Morgana or Thresh. Blitzcrank, right? These things that throw skill shots from really far away, and you need to dodge them. So the movement speed is really, really valuable for you. But in general...
Yeah, that's why I got the boots, because of Nautilus hook.
No, for this matchup, it's not as important because you should just be sitting in the minion wave for the most part, and most of the fight should just start off on Tristana. So if you're just positioning behind your Trista a little bit, but near her, that shouldn't matter nearly as much. So that's a reasonable way to assess it, but for most part, you can just get normal tier 1 boots, which will give you more than enough movement speed, and then you can get the Kindle Gem full.
Like Nautilus, dodging Nautilus hook is really, really hard.
And then you can grab refillable potion because you're trading a lot in this lane, and we want to get as much HP as possible, and then you're good. Then you can get the Bandle Glass much later on, and then you can complete the boots after you finish the mythic item. For the most part, you're usually looking to get tier 1 boots, not upgrade, and get your mythic as fast as possible. That's usually how most game landscapes look for almost all supports, especially on champions like Nami, because you just get a tremendous power spike from completing this item. So we want to make sure that we're trying to get to it as fast as possible in the entire time. That's usually a skill that I kind of have to talk to people about.
I mean, nice bubble, like... She got it because Samira messed up. But yeah, true. Like, if Samira properly played it out, they would both die. Probably both die, you know. I mean, I think they should both die. But, yes, I agree that she hit stuff, you know, and she did a lot of auto attacks, which is very surprising, you know, because usually people are more afraid especially girls when it comes to fights. So she played that, I think, as best as she could. She could have held Q and said, let Samira use the cut the projectile or auto attacks before she Qs, right? But if she did that, then they would have lost anyway. So so she can't really go for that trade-off.
Not quite frequently, so already a positive. So do you know what button you're supposed to hold down to self-cast yourself?
I think it's Shift E. That's how I press.
It's Alt. You hold down Alt. Alt is a modifier that allows you to cast on yourself. So
I think I changed it though.
Okay, that's fine then. Shift E yourself. You should cast E on yourself, right? And be auto-attacking him the entire time. That way you create space with your teammate, and you can actually be doing it. He should lose a lot of HP, even if a gank is coming, because you can auto and slow him, put a bubble down, and we can do 200, 300 more damage to him instantly. And that means that if this guy overreaches on that, maybe he's too scared to go in, right? He might not be as likely to all in with you. Plus, then you're just at a huge HP advantage. Plus, on top of that, it will give you movement speed, so it'll allow you to kind of dodge out of the gank also. Nalus, we're just sitting tucked into the range minions. It doesn't matter where he's. It doesn't matter right now, but it's kind of a habit I want you to build into yourself.
This
being tucked
is
into the minions,
super,
because
super
then you
bad.
can actually play
Like,
really
super
aggro
bad.
between the minions.
Like,
If you make bad habits of being like kind of absent-minded minions when he does come there.
Like, she's just letting Nami free position. Like,
Yeah, I guess he could like flash Q me or something.
So another thing to note too is whenever you're at a standstill like this, so you're about half mana or less, the rule of thumb I usually have is mana is more valuable than my health potions once I hit about half. So you can use your W to top yourself off when you're about 75% mana or so.
that is true.
Once you hit about the half point, reads there.
Yeah, she shouldn't be looking for. So something that he's not explaining her, for example, because he went into a lot of details, is how to actually use mana flow band when you have issues with mana, right? So what you want to do is you want to wait for mana flow band to come off cooldown and then boom, proc with W. You don't want to W every single chance possible, right? Because you're gonna go.
Yeah, I see.
This Nautilus is not giving Samira any pressure. I feel bad for Samira.
So like, when should the mana flow be like done?
It totally varies depending on your lane matchup. In a matchup that you can get killed really easily, it usually takes a bit longer. So you'll usually find yourself maybe like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that.
So something that I would like to see is him explaining to her how to maximize his bubble. Now he did say it like 2 times already about slowing them down first, but a lot of times she just throws bubble because she's scared. So tackling that fear of her, like of she's in no danger and waiting for the moment, like the patience is really, really important when it comes to throwing
if you I mean, you can even get it done before 5 minutes too, if you're really trading a ton and cycling it well. All right, so perfect. We've got a ward right here. So it's pretty common for most people to pink ward the tri-bush. So when you're in a scenario like this where you have your trinket ward and your green ward, you should always use your trinket ward first. The reason for this is your trinket ward lasts a lot less, so like the likelihood you're putting
very
a ward
small
in here and it's
trick,
pink
but
is
really
very
useful.
high.
I agree.
Right? This is the ward. The way I want you to think about the game is minions are walking wards. They reveal who is there or could be there. So you go, well, okay, they're pushed under the turret, they're not walking over anymore, and now my AD carry's here, boom, we can clear that. Because their AD carry's clearing, and it's 2v1 if the Nautilus just comes over. So making good habits of just pushing the waves before wards. It's a principle that's really, really important to build, and it's something that's really helpful to do when you hit the mid-game. I don't know if you die quite frequently, like putting wards down or anything like that, but it's a common thing that I do see with a lot of people. And the easiest way to solve that is to push a wave and then put down wards, rather than skipping a step.
Yeah, I don't think, I never like thought about that. So definitely start doing that.
Level 6, and this guy is level 5, and the other player is level 4.
So something that I've noticed throughout all this time right now is he's going through the game very, very, very slow, like at one speed, you know, and like tackling every single very specific issue. Now it is true that it is master plus, it is master yellow, based on what I saw from the profile, right? And you want to talk about as many things as possible, you know, like in detail, but I think it's just very, very slow. You know, like I would speed it up way faster, and things that were explained already, I wouldn't dabble on them, you know, because it feels like he's watching and trying to figure more stuff to tell her instead of being like, okay, what are the key things she needs to improve on? Because right now, I'm already, you know, I'm already like thinking about what he said at the beginning, you know, after the runes, you know, and I'm having difficulty remembering it, you know. So if I'm this person that is listening to me, I would have to really go back into the video and rewatch it and be like, because every single explanation he did so far was very like monotone, same. The way he was speaking about it was very similar. So it's hard for me to point out a very specific thing he said in learning phase, like this is super important, or this is really the next thing you have to look for. You know what I mean? So it's a very, very common issue, and it feels like we are going into kind of like this commentary, this analysis, this, you know, more like coaching. And this is a lot of times what people don't understand is that, you know, there's you can coach someone where you teach him the best steps to move forward, and you can analyze something for someone so that you can basically tell him everything that you see wrong, you know. And I personally don't like to do this kind of, you know, reviews when it takes very, very long time to go through the game, and you know, we're talking about everything, because then the main thing that's going to be asked at the end, which we will see how he like kind of finishes and stuff like that, is what do we take away from this, other than, you know, like you just explained to me everything, you know. And it's a very, very like a very important skill in coaching that a lot of these players, they do not use it, and that's why, you know, the player that receives the coaching feels like he got a lot of it, but in actuality he remembered very, very little. Same thing as in school, right? We do listen, we give teachers 45 minutes to listen, but we actually take something from their lessons. Usually not much, because we don't even pay attention, you know?
Level 6, but Half-Life, right? So you should actually be playing in a way that allows you to get hooked, because you can win the all-in. So pretty much once you start getting an advantage, what you need to learn how to do is push
This is very, very dangerous. If she had Guardian, I might agree, but because of that, like Samira can, you know, if Nami does the ultimate Q, Samira with proper timing can actually cut both, you know? So she cuts and yes, it is true that Tristana can burst Samira down, right? But there is an outplay potential where Samira could outplay this, you know? So especially because he's talking about minion wave. But yes, Nautilus is not 6, but Nautilus is 6. It is true that Samira Nautilus can outplay this, you know?
The advantage. So rather than playing really safe and conservatively, you should actually be playing reasonably aggressive in this spot. Because if this guy anchors in, what you can do is you just wave at the same time he anchors and bubble him, he's dead. There's no way for this AD carry to reinforce and actually get an efficient trade on you, because you're both full HP and they're...
You see, he's not taking into consideration that Samira can actually cut it, you know? So normally if this is a normal AD carry like a Memphis Fortune or something, true. But because it's Samira, I feel like because you're talking about some details, take that into consideration, because Samira can cut it off, right?
Significantly lower on HP, and you've hit a level 6 threshold where they haven't. So once you start getting edges like that, you need to be being a bit more aggressive and a little bit almost reckless in that sense. So like you are actually playing reasonably far up.
Okay, I've been
good.
focusing a lot on, so I don't know where the jungler is right now.
Same thing with the bubble,
But,
right?
Yeah.
Now, once you get your level 6, by the way, the best way to land a bubble is to not lead with bubble. It's to wave and then bubble.
Yes, that is a
Because
very, very
wave is
normal
just
combo.
huge.
Completely
We
agree
have
with
a
him.
huge.
It's
a
an
huge,
ulti-Q combo.
it covers so much space that it's significantly easier to hit than using the bubble.
And it's
wave knocks people up, so then it allows you for an easy bubble in most cases.
Yeah.
And that's how like a lot of team fights I want you to have happen. So same thing here, right? We still got our mana flow. You could easily just E yourself and hit him a couple of times. That way we're recycling our mana flow at the same time. Plus, then if he's slow, then it's a lot easier for you to hit your bubble.
And now Samira has a high enough HP that if Nami gets hooked with level 6, Nami should die. Actually, yeah. Okay. What did Samira block? Nothing. Yeah. That was a pretty good outplay, but I think Nautilus and Samira misplayed more. But yeah, it was a good.
So when you're having fights, and then another kill.
So I should have just waited to use a Q, and like I should have waited for her to use her little, I forgot what it's called, like
dash.
Wind wall.
Yeah, the wind wall. So you did a good job.
Usually in coaching, I don't go so into details into mechanics, you know, that he goes. And the reason for it is because mechanics are something that the more you play, the better you get, right? So the more nuances in mechanics, you can always play a situation better. You can always say, it's like, you know, I want to do this, he can do this, right? It's like, who pulls the trigger first? Who waits longer? Who predicts who, right? And it can always better. Like in that situation, Samira could have, if she used, you know, their dashes to probably dodge the bubble, to wait for the ultimate and from Nami to be used, right? She could wave the ultimate, you know, she could have flashed properly, you know, to get behind the Tristana and kill her, you know. Nautilus could have flashed afterward, gotten an extra auto attack on Tristana and killed, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that can happen in those 2v2, so yes, you can always play it better, you know. That's why I usually focus more on decisions, because decisions are something you can fix very, very fast, because you might not realize them, but mechanics is something like, there's always gonna be someone that will be better than you that's gonna outplay you, you know?
Waited for the wind wall, and we use the ult afterwards. Just use your bubble after.
So for example, in this kind of situation, right, I would tell her, go bot, push out the wave first before going for this stupid Drake, you know? Push out the wave so that the wave is in a good position, because now if Samira comes back, Nami and Tristana can't push out the wave, which means that based on the wave state before, Nautilus and Samira can freeze, which means even though Nami and Tristana won, they are behind now in tempo, because Samira
that way it's just a lot easier for you to hit. Because if you're trying to hit your bubble and then you wave afterwards, it can be a lot screwier, and it's just a lot easier to do it the order of operations that I kind of gave you. Okay, so next we've backed, we've reset. So it's very important that you go to mid and establish some kind of vision.
You see, this is the thing where I see he's not really, you know, like in terms of coaching, like if he just took this and he actually draw, you know, with something like an epic pen, that information would be way more, you know, applicable, visible. This is the exact situation. You don't have to place your figures down. You don't have to imagine who's who, you know, and stuff like that. It's way more picture-wise and detailed than it is.
Our Ruby Crystal. Whenever you finish your Sightstone, so you're the S over here, okay? Whenever you finish your Sightstone, it's very important that you go to mid and establish some kind of vision before going down to bottom. The only time you should rush back down to bottom is when there's a super big wave and you're worried about your AD carry getting dove. So what I want you to look...
Or there's a way they need to push out.
Look at right here is, see this wave? There, your AD carry is not getting dove. It's not being built in your...
She should go for vision, for pressure
in a way that they're looking for it. Getting vision down is really, really important. See how I really it means that the who's here and who's not. So let's use an example that your mid laner is gone and this guy is pushed up and you're walking to mid to establish vision. Then what you do is you do shallow vision. So boom, boom. Perfect. At least you've got some control over the river.
Yeah,
then
and
what you can
a lot of times what we can do, we can actually freeze the wave for the mid laner. And or you know, and then the enemy mid laner will have to stay for like additional 4 or 5 seconds, and in high elo this can be game changing in terms of laning phases, you know.
Is if you don't know if anyone is here, then you can go up and around and get back to your lane. And then the example of, okay, your mid laner, there is no mid laner, and your mid laner is pushed up, then what you can do is you can walk up, we can put a pink in this brush, we can establish vision over the wall, and on the ramp. Boom. And then you can walk back down to bottom lane through the river, because we've established that we have pressure in this lane. Bad.
This is another situation where he talks a lot about, the reason why I'm skipping is he talks about a lot of different ward positionings, and it is true we can learn them, right? Where to ward, where to ward, where to ward. But a lot of times we have to then look back and where the enemy jungler is, where is your jungler, what does your jungler want to do, right? Every single game is gonna be specific, and in situations like this, you can never, ever tackle every ward spot, right? Every position, you know? So the best way we learn when we reach like Master Guy, Master Challenger is that we take game by game and adopt the situation, and then slowly through analyzing games, adopt patterns, right? That we said at the beginning, this is what I want the wards to look like, and then you switch between two patterns, right? You know, based on what is happening on the game. But like making like one video explaining every single ward position based on the state of the game is always gonna be in a way that you're gonna miss a situation. You know, you're not gonna be, you know, talking about everything, because else you're gonna have to do, you know, a 10-hour video. So that's why, yes, vision is important, and I like that he told her that she should ward. But in terms of more placement, this is the thing with coaching. We usually want to let someone make a mistake. So if we want to guide them step by step, we say, well, the first thing she's missing right now is going to mid to get vision, right? Or freezing, or, you know, setting up a good way for mid lane, or, you know, healing your mid lane, or whatever you can do in that time, you know? And then when she starts doing that, then we would teach her where to place vision based on certain situations. And then we would go through some situations with her, maybe 3 games, based on, you know, 3 coachings. And then we would, now that she knows about 3 different positions, we would tell her the differences between them and when she should use which one, and slowly start building patterns in terms of recognizing where to place the vision down, you know? So it's like kind of like a gradual process, but showing it all out there. This is the problem of this, a lot of videos, is like they want to throw like everything out there, and the problem is you're always gonna miss something, you know? And then the person might misunderstand, and because we've been at it for so long already, you know, even during this video, we can see that I'm again losing now the memory of what he was talking about before. So that's already what I said, that, you know, I'm gonna focus more about the actual information he's providing, which a lot of it is really good, you know, like the Nami level 2, level 3, I mean, from the level 3, which ability to level up was really interesting to me, and I would have to put in numbers because usually I don't think about stuff like that, right? But what it's really, really clear is that it's so focused on monotone, every single explanation, the same way, same process, same, you know, trying to as much throwing at it as possible, right? And saying, let's see what sticks, you know? And this is the process we have in normal schools right now. And this is the process that I think it was used in the past because they didn't know better. But now there's ways to do better where you can, you know, isolate. You can say, these are the next steps, right? Like throwing everything at her. I just think if I asked her, what do you remember, she would maybe list 2 or 3 things anyway, right? But forget the other things. And it would take a long time to go through all of this, you know, which is not efficient, you know, when we're coaching.
The enemy mid laner could push out a wave and then roam.
Yeah, so we're talking about a what if, what if.
For that, do that off of your reset. You finish their enemy support goes there, then you have the options to counter gank the enemy laner, etc. We always want to have options available to us. That's why getting vision down is really, really helpful for most cases.
Okay.
Lose all his HP / potentially die. So just like doing these kinds of easy things that'll allow you to just guarantee your CC rather than...
Yeah, you see, if she waited with the bubble really, really good, but she should have waved, like he mentioned like 2 times before, wave before Q, you know, and that he would guarantee the Q, and Nautilus would go away with like very low HP.
Trying to hit the bubble and then waving afterwards is going to do a lot of dividends.
Yeah, I can see now. I feel like
I really like that
like
he's skipping now, but I like to fast forward way better than than skip. And the reason why fast forwarding feels better is because it you can see everything at a faster speed, so if something comes up, but when you skip, a lot of times you might not catch certain things. What happened, and then you have to go back and forth, so you can avoid that.
Afraid of the ADC just walling everything, but she's like not even over there.
Exactly. Yeah. If you just pay attention to that, or to be completely honest, I ban Samira every game, no joke, just because I feel like Windwall just fucks with so many of the characters that I like to play. But yeah, if you're just paying attention to where the AD carry goes, then you'll usually be okay in most cases.
I would ban her, but I ban Thresh every game. I hate him.
Okay, that's fine too.
You see, this is the first time Samira actually played it properly in terms of the wind wall. So now they die, and Nautilus actually went for Nami, which is the correct thing in this matchup, not for Tristana. So yes, finally we can see why they should actually lose the 2v2.
So this is just mostly being tucked in minions, right? So we want to make sure that we're always tucked in minions, because we don't have dashes or anything like that to get out. So whenever you're creating pressure, make sure that we're shifting around these minions that are next to us, right? So that we don't get
Same
angry.
issue. Ultimate Q. She can, when she sees that the Q lands, but again, we're going into nuances, right?
So we don't get anchored in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, same mistake with the rotation to mid lane. You see, like you see, like he's skipping, and it's so hard because then you don't know what was happening in between, and then he has to go back and forth, back and forth. This is really, really bad when bot viewing, You wanna fast forward. You wanna look at everything, but a faster speed, It is true there are certain moments where you don't want to talk about, you don't want to waste time, but yeah.
Talked about vision, so we should be good in that sense. Oh, where do we bubble? Same thing, right? We want to make sure that we have wave bubble combo. So unless you pretty much know for a fact,
so he's talking about the same thing about
you're gonna hit
being
something.
patient.
It's just what I would do. Short cooldowns that are my wave are more than enough, right? Because we still haven't even launched our wave. And we end up getting out, which is quite sketch. Dang.
I don't know how I got
that. So this is good though. I like what you're doing right here. You're playing the ranges, which is something that's really hard for a lot of people to do.
Yes.
So this is something very important that I
That's
just
why
I'm
really surprised. This girl is
once
playing
you're out
awesome.
of danger, you want to play at the edges.
I mean, it is master level and it is NA, but based on like she does have some fear and how she's throwing out her Qs, But overall, she's really like she's fighting. I love that about this girl, Good job, Allison. If you're Allison, good job.
Just give people buffs. So you do a good job of this. So I want to this be a positive thing where if you're sitting here, we want to make sure that we're throwing spells into our teammates the whole time. So one thing to note is I want you to think we want to be sitting with you. All right, perfect. Okay, and you have no words. Okay, so let's talk about a word that a lot of people use, but they don't really understand, which is tempo. So tempo means that you get to control what happens next on the map. So you aren't needed for this turret. This is greedy of you. You don't need to be here for this. To be on the map anymore. So rather than walking around here and we're clearing some words, which is fine, but we want to be making sure that we're very timely. Time is really the primary resource that's very, very important on this. So like for example, a time we're taking this turret would have been okay. Change your gold threshold, right? We've already at 750 to upgrade your mythic items. So you don't need to be here for any of the income.
You see?
In fact, actually, you're kind of sapping resources.
So this is another thing that a lot of players do, right? Is he's bombarding and he's trying to put in every single variable, right? To put in that he's thinking about in this moment why she should have reset before, to get it done. Now, when we're explaining this, you can point this out and you can simplify this a lot more, So he started off with, she doesn't have to be here, right? And then he started adding, oh, you were clearing some vision, oh, you had this amount of gold, oh, because all of this thing he's starting to slowly realize while he's looking at the play, Like, oh, Tristana, he's doing Herald cards, he's gonna try to entertain every single variable, which is what professional players do. They take as many variables as possible. But when we coach, right, the best kind of situation that's always is that one of the biggest things that happened here is that one, she was needed on the tower, right, and she wants to be back on the map, getting the vision, to facilitate his team for the next rotation. She doesn't accomplish anything by attacking the tower with Nar. So because of that, she should reset. Done, right? And yes, we can go and explain every single variable, why, when exactly she should reset and stuff like that. But it's sometimes nice to just make it simple so that she knows from now on, every single time I have the choice between attacking the tower and resetting because I'm low on mana, right? Because I don't have vision. I want to reset because I want to get back on the map and be useful again, because without mana and without vision, I'm actually a useless piece of shit,
Just from your teammate. So we want to make sure that we're taking resets at good times for this. Because this is kind of just like silly to dive to, but a lot of it is systemic from the fact that you just need to take your resets so that you're already on the map. That way you can do stuff on the map and create more pressure.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I stayed because I was going to go help with the...
Wait, is this Platinum?
Do stuff on the map and create more pressure.
I thought this is Master.
Yeah.
This is Platinum. If I look at this. Or what? I don't understand face check, but I saw Master there. Was it Flex Q?
Like, I feel like I stayed because I was going to go...
Here, I'll give you the lowdown. Right here, you're done. You need to reset. If you don't have any wards to get vision down and you don't need gold for a certain item, you should be resetting right now. So you can clear this ward, and this is where you should have reset. So we're at 1608, okay? It takes 8 seconds to reset and about 30 seconds to get back on.
Okay, so based on the fact that Karthus and Irelia are dead, her team actually can't accomplish anything out of it, and Gnar and Tristana wanna push out the waves first. Now, she doesn't need to help them push out the wave, which is correct, right? But if she resets first and then goes on the map, actually the time she's gonna be on the map, she cannot really use that much, because even if she set up vision, right? Let's say around, she resets, and I don't know where Drake is up because I don't see any timers, but let's assume that Herald is the next objective, right? And she goes and places this vision down. She's gonna have to reset again, and this vision game, right? Because her team is not gonna be there on the map in time to protect that vision. It's kind of gonna fall down, because what's gonna happen is Tristana's gonna push. Now should have went Bond pushed, right? And then because they push mid lane down, someone's gonna come, and if she goes reset now, goes here, right, and tries to get vision, this is exactly the time when the enemy are gonna push on mid lane, back, which means that it's gonna be very hard for her to enter this area and get vision down with Karthus alone or something like that. And yes, it's true that timer wise, it's kind of iffy, but taking this ward doesn't really destroy her tempo that much. But yeah, she shouldn't walk around afterwards because she's not accomplishing anything.
The map. So we're at 1608 for the start. So we've died at 1652. Down already for like the next objective that you have. So that's why I wanted to show you kind of visually what.
See, this is why we don't skip stuff, because he skipped to that part and then he died, and then she died, and then he went all the way back figuring out when the time was. When you watch a replay, you want to know exactly when that happens.
Time kind of here, or maybe here, because he's kind of pinging it now. But really, this is where you should be resetting. You've won the fight. You have no wards, so you shouldn't be on the map anymore because you don't need any more gold. So the things that I usually do for checklists. After a fight has happened is number 1, are there any objectives up? Number 2, am I necessary for the objective? So sometimes a dragon will be up, right? But the whole enemy team is dead. You don't really Nami doesn't do any damage to the dragon, right? So sometimes I'll just reset even though there's a neutral objective up.
True.
Or do I need gold? Resetting again. Let's say you had 4 wards down. There's Baron up, no dragon. Okay, we'll do like a scenario like that.
Arbitrary situations, right? Again, we're talking about it's hard to imagine, and this is the problem with coaching, which I will explain at the end. I'm gonna kind of do a summary, so at the end, you guys can listen into
You're
it.
all the way over reset, which you can.
Actually, I bought this.
The collection. Number one is I like to buy tier, just because I feel like this champion runs out of mana fast. It's not for everybody. Not everyone likes a couple options. Obviously, Cosmic Drive is one of the better just ability haste items. It doesn't really do anything besides give you ability haste, but I find that, you know, being able to cycle more spells is almost always useful. So I'm a big fan of this item. This is definitely an option on the table. Another option is Redemption. It's a pretty underrated item, but it's not a bad actual second item because of the fact that it has ability haste jammed into it and like a guaranteed heal on the ground most cases. So you really have to like the extra abilities, and you can build for the most part.
All of
Game for me, it's actually kind of popping off right now. Plus the ability power tier, just because it's the most universal. Ability haste is never bad. You could have made an argument for Staff of Flowing Water though too, because you have a Karthus that's actually kind of popping off right now. Plus the ability power is never bad on you. But these are kind of like 3 or 4 options that you can basically go, and they're all not bad.
You see, they're all not bad. So which one do you choose? You know, like I showed you the options. So this approach is like, you know, when a professional player against a professional player we talk about, we a lot of times use this language. But in terms of teaching someone, right? Like you want to make at least some conclusions, not leave everything open, so that they know what to take away, you know, like they have to move forward, you know. And if they just know you can go for this item, this item, this item, this item if you need this, right? Like for a lot of players, even for me, I look at Freak's Rundown in terms of numbers to kind of judge, because I don't want to go through every item and do the math myself, to be honest, you know. But on paper we should be doing like every math, you know, and we're not there yet, I think, like in League of Legends, where, you know, even coaches sometimes they don't have like a database of all the items, like looking at, you know, and then into which situation they plug in. But we usually use pattern recognition, where it says this is a similar, you know, situations like this, like how he said, card is popping off, you know, ability power on him is nice. Oh, Tristana's popping off, Arden can be nice, you know. Oh, there's nobody really popping off, I just want a general redemption, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of options, but that's why I like to put it specifically to the game itself and not like use like all the options, because then I'm not answering the question what she should go, you know, to build.
So if there's like a Zed, a Rengar, some support, come by. I build it everywhere. So
yeah, here I don't really know what to do now.
Okay, perfect. Then we can start talking about that. So we've kind of already shown you the trifecta. Common question is kind of like, what do I do? I'm kind of lost in the mid game. So if you play champions like Nami, who are enchanters and such, usually what you want to do is you just want to go mid every time. Go mid and push it out, and then see how people are reacting. So for example, right, you're able to push out the mid lane, and we want to establish.
And that is not true. You don't want to go mid lane all the time, you know. So let him explain the whole process first, and then, and yes, I know he wants to generalize it, and I know he wants to say, well, you know, I'm on generally you want to go mid lane always, you know, but let's see how he explains
wards
it.
On a side of the map. It's usually just based on what neutral objective is coming up next, or what neutral objective you can contest. Sometimes at 20 minutes, even though the Baron is coming up before the dragon, I tend to gravitate towards the dragon just because it's hard for people to just randomly take Baron in most cases. You can always put a ward down on it if you're concerned about them sneaking or something, but usually if you push out mid,
you can just
most of the time and force people to show, you'll know pretty quickly whether or not they're just randomly trying to run over to do a Baron. So let's start with pink wards. Pink wards in the line brush. This is super good because that means that anytime that you push out the mid lane, you can move into these pink wards and potentially try to jump on someone who then is trying to push the next wave of mid. Remember what we talked about where minions are wards. So let's say, for example, we push out the mid wave all the way to this line right here, right? And no one is showing. Then that means that, oh, well, if no one is showing, then you can just sit here and wait. Because if no one grabs this minion wave, then that's just lost gold, and you're just winning the game because of it. And then if someone does show here, which most people will, trust me, then that means that, oh, that person, or maybe even 2 or 3 people come in to like deal with the wave because they don't know where the heck you are now, right? This allows you to shift in and get vision down on whatever location that you need. Now you do this based on comfort and like how many people are grouped around you. So for example, if you can
Yeah,
go
like I
super
feel like
deep,
no one was around me. It's
perfect.
like I don't
Then,
know. I was like afraid
yeah,
to
that's
go
totally
ward.
fine. So number 1 is the most important ward, mid lane ward. We want to make sure that there's always a mid lane ward, and the reason for that is the same reason that we push out the mid lane. We want to be able to see players and how they move around the map.
True.
Whether they're clearing a wave and backing off, oh perfect, or if they're shifting to each of the sides. So you already do that, which is perfect. Next thing is making sure that we have pink wards on a line brush, right? So we want to have a pink ward on a line brush in that sense. So like for example here, you don't know what to do. The answer is kind of nothing. If you can't have people around you to get you vision, then you shouldn't do anything by yourself, because that's just an easy way for you to get yourself killed. So as we can kind of see right here, right, this is a big no-no. We don't want to be all the way up here, because this allows like people to potentially jump on us. So in an example like this, very easily, no one is near you, everyone's resetting, right? Then what you can do is a technique called trailing. The fight happens and you're like kind of ganking through the lane. This is a way you can actually break open the game very easily.
Because the same problem comes again, right? Like I'm listening, I'm trying to imagine, right? It's like it's so hard to follow because it's like point to point to point to point to point, trying to explain every what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens. And again, guys, this is the talk pro players use with each other, you know, because they can picture themselves, and you know, when talking with pro players, a lot of times what we do is we just go to the computer and look at exact situations. Like I even touched on, like in gaming house, when you know we talked about things, I always had replays on point and be like, this is what we talk about, right? There's only specific situations when we talked about matches where we really lived it, when we really memorized it, and we know exactly everyone what we're talking about. But in terms of game, solo queue, you know, stuff like that, always like draw, you know, picture, pause at the exact moment when the decision was made, you know? Like all of this helps to understand the point easier, because right now, again, I'm starting to get lost. And again, we've been, you know, 55 minutes into this, you know, I'm starting to get lost. And yes, I know he did a document, you know, writing things down, but it's more like it feels like a discussion between, you know, trying to tell someone something really interesting, you know, instead of like, this is what you need to get better, you know. And this is a common issue with players, you know, teaching other people.
Usually tilts the shit out of people. So primary thing is this is really unsafe warding. So we want to push out mid, that way you free up your teammates, because then you can't
like normally in pro play this bush will almost never be pink warded, you know. So like this bushes, because it's too easy to sweep. So normally we don't, you know, we don't pink ward this. We usually use pink wards way more, you know, on places where wards should be. So you know, players shouldn't be warding over this.
Pointing arrows, like we want to just make sure that we're seeing anyone that's approaching enemy supports,
you know.
And we want to make sure that we got all our little friends grouped up together. That way,
but it's in solo queue. This
ward
is
whenever
it's
you're
like
moving around.
To head up a ward in like the river, like towards Baron or anything.
And step. 2 people are bottom. On this side, we want to make sure that we're having wards that are like.
You see how we're still talking about the same play? Like it's very, very simple. Okay, let's simple it down. You want to push out the wave, right? And then you want to let someone else walk in first to tank and face check for you, and then you place vision down. Okay, so you want to use your monkeys to go in first and then place and clear vision. Not want to go alone, because also when you spot wards, you can clear them way faster when someone's next to you, because you have their extra auto attacks. Very, very simple explanation. We don't have to add all this
like this. You really only want to ward on Baron
because
when there's, you know, 2 to 3 of your players on this side of the map, because then I'll do something about this. So same scenario. See, they don't see anyone for like the straight lines on the lane. So when you're, you know, getting killed here, getting killed here, getting killed here, there's so like, because there's control, they have control over this location. You have to walk at a lot longer rate, and that's like kind of the and then your teammate gets killed. So then it's just super easy for them to kind of just dictate the map in any way that you want. Also, in the mid to late game, try to make a better habit of getting rid of your refillable potion to have like a slot. So you could have had a Kindle Gem pretty recently, even basically after your reset on the.
I think that's what I was gonna get next.
Good wave. Just need a bubble after that. Teammates are dead and it is fucked. Okay.
Okay, it is fucked. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
So for mid game, establish.
Okay, so let him close out and then I'm gonna close my thoughts.
Push. Then go to side we want. Buy pinks. Put them in side lane brushes. Or neutral. Focus on wave into bubble. I mean, we talked about build path a little bit. Yeah, so the things that you do pretty well already is you auto attack a lot in lane, which is actually something that sounds really simple but is really helpful because it allows you to actually do a lot of damage in your trades. You just kind of need to fully commit to your pressure rather than kind of half-assing it. And then making sure that we're always sitting in the minions. We did that for the most part pretty well, but there were times where we didn't. And then using your wave and then bubbling afterwards so that you just have easy setup in that sense is really, really good. I think you should try out Exhaust. I think you'll actually end up liking it a lot more than you think. Making sure we're rushing our mythic item is really, really important. So just getting the tier 1 boots unless it's really important.
You tackle some runes. You see, he even, because they went through so many things, do you see how he has trouble remembering everything they talked about, right? When, we finish coaching lessons, right? I would say at the end of the coaching lesson, you need to fix this, 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 this. Okay?
Setups. And then a lot of the game is mid-game stuff. So we want to make sure that we're pushing out the waves, then we're establishing our vision down there. Also, don't waste time on map. So like examples of this were that team fight around Dragon or whatever that you ended up winning, right? We want to make sure that we're not wasting a lot of time on just like frivolous stuff. So that way we're getting good value off the map. Oh, here it is. This, right, where we establish the where we need to reset and stuff like that. So here I will write checklist. Neutral objective. Words available. The answer is no to all. Thing 2 is the once complete the side stone off of reset, boom, let's get down to mid lane, get our vision down a little bit, and then okay. Do you have any questions or anything like that that maybe I missed or something that you want to go over?
No, that I think that
when he asks in this moment, she will never say I have more questions. Like she has to be super smart, on point, listen to him, because even I have tough to make a question right now, because there was so much stuff, right, that when you go through so much stuff you're like thinking about, and then it's like because usually what happens is when an explanation is done or a presentation is done or a coaching is done, right, you have step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to move forward, right? Now, do you have any questions between step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And it's very simple for someone to ask a question because he knows, okay, this is what I have to do. Is there something unsure? Now here, it's like, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 1, 2, 20, 30, 40, right? And now it's like, usually they're gonna ask a very basic question or they're gonna be like, can you repeat this for me? But other than that, you're not gonna get any meaningful questions at this point.
That's pretty much it.
But it's nice that he asks.
Yeah, like
it's
it was just like kind of like awkward because there's like no wards out there, and like I'm like the only one that can ward, and
You see, so she feels pressure to say something, you know?
no one's like around me. Just like, okay, what do we do?
Pinging is a skill that is uncomfortable at first, but will pay dividends. So, like, if you really want to get vision down somewhere, pinging like on your way and assist me, so that people will grip with you in ward, will actually do a lot more than you think. It's a lot of extra work, and it's a little bit exhausting and kind of frustrating sometimes when people don't listen. But
So they're just like,
not
I feel like
surprising.
we could have won that.
Yeah, probably
Like,
not
I
surprising.
thought we were like pretty even, and then like they just kept tilting each other.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you
yeah.
for saying that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he actually
Edison.
like taught me a lot. I didn't think about a lot of those things that you mentioned.
You see how she's like, he did say a lot, right? It feels I got a lot, but you see how she's still unsure and saying like, wow, thank you, you know, stuff like that. That's kind of like the response you want after a coaching lesson, you know? Or what you want is complete silence. When someone's like, when you say, do you have any questions? They're like, you know, like he's just processing everything, and you're like, yes, I hit a nerve, right? But like, I think that was you know, like she's not exactly sure yet. So yes, after she goes through the video, it might be more clear, right? But a lot of times people are not gonna go again. You're gonna have very rare people that they're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go through a video again, or again, or again, or again, right? Only very dedicated ones, you know? So if you want to have that big impact as a coach, you want to be like at the end of the lesson, you want to have that, you know, no questions, understood, coach. So I do this and this and this, and you say, yes, this is the path, right? This is kind of the responses you want. So to summarize things, okay, to go through, because we've been here like for, it was quite a long reaction. We'll see how we do the future ones, okay? But I'm going to say, in terms of, let's tackle first the knowledge-wise. So knowledge-wise, in terms of Nami, in terms of supports, a lot of good points he provided, a lot of nuances he provided, right? I think how he explained the runes, how he explained all the rune options, how he explained the specific choices, how he explained the itemization, what to buy. I think in terms of that knowledge part, in terms of bubble, do the combo, yes, he didn't. And this is probably a byproduct of the fact he doesn't ban that he bans Samira all the time, right? His knowledge about Samira and her all-in potential on, you know, her, you know, wind wall and stuff like that, and his feeling was a little bit slightly off this review in terms of like the 2v2s and stuff like that. But other than that, right? In terms of nuances, in terms of Nami, again, I remember the most that on level 3, you know, putting 2 points in W instead of 1 point in E, really interesting, you know. I would have to do the math on that, but I probably agree with him in that sense. In terms of like going to middle, in terms of like basics, like going to middle, in terms of how to use your bubble, in terms of patience, you know, I'll like, in terms of information in general he provided, he was a lot of times, or almost always, like I during the review I pointed some stuff out, like I said, like the Samira, the exhaust versus heal, you know, summoner spell, which is really important, like not going always mid lane, you know, for example, this base timing, right, where, you know, in terms of specific example, he might not be 100% right? But overall, the information he provided, if you know what you're looking for, this is a very good, you know, information-based video, you know? We have a lot of very good information. Now let's isolate this information so it's gonna be easier for you guys, right? So one, okay, some rune-wise, right? Really important. Guardian, defensive versus all-in, airy, you know, aggressive versus poke with poke, right? Where you can pressure. And yes, there's you know, runes in between, and there's the details you can talk about, but very simple versus aggressive, Guardian, right? Versus the ones that you wanna just trade, like range matchups, it is, you know, airy. Then summoner choice, right? Exhaust versus Ignite. He explained exhaust is better in general. And yes, Ignite is better on supports if you want to go for the kill, you know. But in general, what we would like to do is summoner spell choice is put on a champion like Nami and on overall on heal shield supports, right? is put heal on them, okay, and exhaust or cleanse on the AD carry, okay? That's the best setup. So this is where he didn't mention, and which is really, really important. Third is he mentioned a lot in terms of, like, he missed, for example, the level 2 stuff, right? Like walking up, like being really aggressive and stuff like that. But in terms of like auto-attacking, you are auto-attacking till you get the push. And then after you get a push, you want to slow it down, okay? Slow down so that you can zone and pressure them as much as possible. Then, in terms of, he talked about a lot of how Nami works, so we're gonna talk about Nami mechanics. So the biggest Nami mechanic, he said, there's two, is wave Q, that's the first combo. Second combo is slow, slow, slow Q. And then we have normal mechanics, okay? What he said is basically we talk about patience. So when you know that someone's inting in your face because Samira is too far away, something like that, auto, really, really punish him. And then when he has nowhere to dodge, then throw your Q, and preferably use your Q after Aftershock, okay, to really maximize the damage, okay. 6, right? So now in laning phase still is that when we go in base, if the AD carry is not in a threat or doesn't have to push out the wave, which he forgot to say push out the wave, right? You go mid and get vision, okay? Vision, or again, we can freeze the wave, we can chunk the enemy mid laner, we can heal our mid laner. There's a lot of stuff we can do. 7, right, is, buy items based on who you're facing. If you need defensive stuff because they all end you want to buy Kindle Gem, you want to buy, you don't want to rush, this item but increases your healing and stuff, because the moment a Q lands, you're gonna die, okay? So items. And then in mid and late game, he talks about tempo, okay, which is very, very simple thing. If the situation your teammates go to doesn't require your help, and you don't have vision and mana, you should reset, okay? Reset and get back on the map as fast as possible to be able to impact the map, okay? The next thing is vision, okay? He talked about vision, is basically you want to always let other people walk in first, right, to go in front of you, to be able to place vision down easier, better, right? Safer, okay? And they can, clear your wards when you spot them with sweeper way better, and you're more safe, the vision gets protected. And basically the reason why we place vision is to have information, and usually we want to place vision around areas where we can protect, we can fight around, and pick fights that are beneficial to us, okay? And 10 things, the 10th thing, in team fights, he praised her, which is good. Like, she stayed and maximized her value in team fights, which is awesome, okay? And then lastly, something that was missing in this video, which is really, really important, is she talked about what should I do in mid and late game. For all of you guys out there, very, very simple. Something that she didn't do throughout the whole video, I haven't seen, is basically pressing tab, checking who's the fattest member, who has the highest potential to carry the game, and then enable him through damage, CC, tankiness, healing, shielding, right, to carry him the game. Use everything you have for the person that has the highest chance, because unfortunately supports don't do damage, so you're gonna have to have someone else do the damage for you, So play with the carry, acknowledge who the carry is. It's not always the AD carry, right? And then try to enable him to carry through all of the resources you currently possess, okay? So that's kind of like the summary, And as we can see, I didn't even do this coaching, right? But these are the important parts. Now, would I tell her everything? I would tell her depending on the elo. Now, I saw Master at the beginning, then I saw Platinum on the thingy checker or something, So I'm not exactly sure what elo she is, But regardless of that, that are the key points, that she can take away. And now we're gonna go to the last point about the coaching part, right? So beginning wise, I don't know if she paid or not. If she paid, then a little bit like the attitude is a little bit, I would act a lot more differently. I would respect her more. I would, take her as a customer, take her as someone I want to teach, I want to improve, other than just it feels like his voice. And this is something a lot of gamers have. It seems indifferent. It seems everything he says is the same length, the same way, the same, So in terms of that aspect, like things are not pronounced, stopped, emphasized. That it really, really, really sit down in your mind what's important. Next thing, during the explanations itself, like too much options, too much giving examples, too much, like you can think about this option, this option, this option, we can do it this way, if this variable, right? Like there's so much options that if someone that is not at the same level as you is gonna get lost, and I skipped through a lot of them mainly because it's good information, but at the end of the day, you want to look at this game and say, okay, what you could have done in this moment, which moment that is, right? Which she did say, and then generalize it, right? And yes, you cannot generalize everything, but you want to take the mistakes she did. Like, for example, here, she has nothing to do, right? Because his teammates are going to push out the waves because every enemy is done. She doesn't have enough mana and she doesn't have enough wards. So reset, tempo, right? Very, very simple. You don't have to bombard them with examples because that doesn't show how much you know about the game, which a lot of times people think that's what it shows, but it shows that you cannot isolate the things that are really, really important and you want to teach her, you want to remember, you want to make her understand, right? Then, what's missing is that epic pen, that, writing, when he's explaining all these options, right? He does use the where you move like lol something. I forgot what the name of the program was, which is awesome, right? But what you want to do, is you want to take the game, you want to look at this specific shot, this, right? And when you draw on things, it becomes way more clear, way more understandable what you're talking about, right? Then, isolate. You don't have to talk about everything. Like he talks about everything. You want to isolate the things that you think are the most important for her, right? Because you didn't saw the game before. Based on the yellow, based on the fact, you would isolate and you would skip some things that you think she's not ready yet or she's not ready yet to, work on, and you would guide her step by step. And then maybe the next time after, some time, you would then show her the next level, and that's how you can, keep someone interested, but don't link her way to give her too much so then she feels lost what you should fix next, right? Then, at the end, what we have is we really saw that he had to like think what happened, right? At the end, you want to like hammer it down. This is the end of your presentation. This is where you're like, even if she didn't listen to you that well during it, this is where you hammer down everything you want her to improve. Like sometimes there's 5 points, sometimes there's 10 points, sometimes there's 15 points. You can choose based on the level that she's performing at, but overall, right, be concise, be confident, so he's missing that professional coaching atmosphere where I would say, if I listen to him, I would be like, oh, okay, nice. But I didn't listen to him and be like, wow, yes, I will do it. Oh, next game, I'm going to show him, who's boss, right? So overall, I'm super, super happy about watching this in terms of the information itself. If we isolate and simplify a few things, and isolate the things he actually wanted to say, right, was good, was really good. He has the knowledge about the game. Really, really good Lohpally, in terms of coaching aspect, a lot. This is infancy in terms of coaching. A lot of stuff needs fixing, like I mentioned before. So really, really good first video, right? For someone that doesn't have that much knowledge about the game, I would say not that easy to learn from. But when you know and when you can isolate, you can see that Lohpally, knows what he's talking about in terms of support. There are some weaknesses here and there, which I mentioned in the video, but overall, good things. You just have to isolate it and bring it out more and let them shine so that the student can really focus on those things. So this was our first reaction to a coaching video. If you want to submit your coaching video for me to review or to react to, join the Discord and put the link out there so people can vote and make it happen. And I'm really, really happy. And my goal with this is just to tackle as many coaches, as many content, and really show you guys what it is about content, what it's about coaching, what can people improve so the overall League of Legends community gets better and all the misinformation out there gets finally fixed, because there's a lot of bullshitting. And yes, we will come to those YouTubers as well. Don't worry about it. So have a good day, guys. Subscribe, follow, like if you like it, right? Dislike if you like it. Tell me what you think. And Lohpally, thank you for the video so I could react to it. Have a good one, guys, and Happy New Year.